We couldn't save them all, but if we've arrived any later, it would have been a massacre. Things were looking bleak until you and the First turned up. Though there will be time later to discuss your journey to the First, there's one thing I must ask. Did you perchance speak with our friends in the Crystarium? Lena and Beck both warned me against overexerting myself. Strange that they would express such similar sentiments. Identical, in fact, but their advice is duly noted. Oh, Graha, you know full well why they are saying that. This is the contingent space of operations, I take it? It is indeed. At the very last, I'm glad our own members are accounted for. At the very least, sorry. My bad. You look like Missia. A little bit, at least. Though the final days should manifest here, too, after everything these people have suffered, is a fate cruel beyond words. Nevertheless, with allies old and new at our side, there's yet reason to be hopeful. It's been a while since last we spoke. For some time, I was not myself. Lucia and the others told me what happened that night, and about the events that took place while I was receiving treatment. It was only then that I realized the lengths you and yours go to. I know I might have never been able to repay you, but I'll be damned if I don't try. And most of all, I want to thank you, all of you, for everything you've done and continue to do for the sake of my people. We're talking to Elisa. Okay. To see Zeno standing there so uncaring and unrepentant, gods, I don't know what came over me. I just blurted out the first thing that came to mind, but looking back on it, I stand by those words. I would say I hope they won't incite him to further villainy, but to be honest, I doubt he even remembers what I said. Anyway, enough about all that. It's good to see you again. That is a 545 weapon. That is probably the same weapon I already have, and never mind. We still need to quiz you about your time on the First, if we ever get more than a moment's respite. Yep. Outside help.
No major injuries then. Good. I briefed the recovered soldiers and sent them on their way as quickly as I could, but nevertheless feared they would not make it in time.
The additional support was invaluable. Your men saved more than a few lives.
That did it.
Though not all, I regret to say.
Yeah. We lost quite a few people.
I take it that I'm addressing Lucia Junius. I'm the Forum's envoy, Fortuneau Leveilleur.
He's well
You are
informed.
owed an explanation for these most dire developments.
Yeah. Explain yourself.
Another trial wrought by the final days. I was beginning to suspect as much.
A trial, you're saying?
You doubtless feel some consternation having been forced to abandon your original plan. Trust me when I say you were right to send the refugees elsewhere.
Okay.
Beasts have been sighted within the capital. Perhaps it was a stroke of grim fortune that the population was decimated beforehand, as they've yet to appear in any great number, but in time. In any case, Maxima leads the remainder of the contingent in an effort to cull the creatures and evacuate the populace as we speak.
Good plan. Good man.
Once the airships are taken to the skies, I pray your men can be persuaded to join him.
They will probably stay.
You'll permit us to retain our weapons?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have sent you after the Scions were I expecting you to stab them in the back.
Lol.
And I, for one, would not consider past transgressions more relevant than future contributions. Regardless of the circumstances that saw us at odds before, we need men of courage now, more than ever.
Very true. He's completely confused.
We swore to defend Garlemald, and so we shall.
Meaning they will stay, presumably.
It seems you have everything under control. You will excuse me then, for mine own duties await.
A moment, Master Fortuneau.
Ooh.
You did desire to express your appreciation for services rendered, did you not?
I did. Though if you intend to again ask that Charlian alter its course, you will find my gratitude insufficient.
That's not what he asked.
'Tis nothing so onerous. I wish to hear the details of this grand endeavor of yours.
Look.
Do you swear to listen and to learn, and not to embark upon some scheme to impede us?
Why would he impede them?
I swear.
Any other I would doubt, but you I trust to keep your word. For not once have you broken it.
Yeah, he was raised well, I guess.
Very well. I will request that the Forum make you privy to our plans. You may await our summons at the Baldessian Annex, assuming the decision is in your favor. Does that suffice?
Sure.
It does. You have my thanks.
Excellent. You can regale us with tales of your most recent sojourn to the First while we wait.
Ugh! That's gonna take a bit more than a little wait. What?
Did you hear something just now?
What the? What are you doing here? What's a Loperit doing on Earth?
Where is this star's blasted pudding?
Lol. What are you doing here?
Dawn may banish even the darkest night, and to this bitter clime bring warmth and comfort.
The fuck?
'Tis heartening to see such an assembly upon my return. I thought often of you whilst I looked down upon our star's brilliance from the moon above.
What are you doing here?
Yes, but what are you doing here? And dressed like that? Aren't you cold?
Verily, I fear for my health should I proceed to expound upon our purpose ere I procure more suitable garments.
Allow me to summarize. We're here because none of you lot are up there. Nor has anyone deigned to send word about any changes in the plans.
We were kind of busy.
It's rude, is what it is. to wondering if you weren't in a spot of bother, so we decided to take matters into our own hands. Come down here and help, if our help be needed. So she says, but it's also something of a convenient excuse to visit Aetheris. Oriange made it sound absolutely marvelous. More so before the impending doom, but still. And it's not like there will ever be a better time. What with the aforementioned doom?
Yeah.
Marvellous, they say, yet not an ounce of pudding to be found. I must suffer Oriange's inferior works no more.
Hey! Maybe consider the plight of present company before you go blathering on about pudding and doom?
I mean...
As I was saying, should you require any assistance with whatever, we are at your disposal. We were born from Hydaelyn's love for the lives of this star, so naturally we would much prefer to see them continue. Twiddling our thumbs up on the moon is hardly conducive to that, though, is it?
Makes sense.
Aye, not when you've all got such precious thoughts and feelings and hopes for the future deserving of more active preservation. Speaking to Oriange made us realize that while we've carried out our duties to the letter, we've failed to fulfill them in spirit.
Aww.
From there, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump towards resolving to do better. So please, show us how. Help us help you.
Oh, for starters, you can give Orange something to wear.
Forgive me, but are they...
Yes.
Thy distant collaborators, indeed.
Yes, you
Hello,
talked...
fellow. Well met. You'd be a member of the Forum, would you? It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you at last. I'm Livingway, Hydaelyn's right paw. That last bit is very important. As am I, if I may humbly say so myself.
I, bid you welcome to our star, Livingway. On behalf of the Forum, I thank you for traveling such a distance to meet us.
just
As you
shut
have
down.
surmised, preparations for the Exodus have not proceeded as smoothly as we had hoped. I should be happy to personally escort you to our headquarters in Sharlayan, where you may advise us as you deem fit.
'Twas with reluctance that I set aside the great work of readying the moon for habitation. Be assured that I did so only after the Loporrits made plain their earnest desire to come hither, and I myself felt a growing certainty that their contributions here would prove invaluable.
I mean, they literally have the power of creation magics.
Trite, perhaps, but I followed my heart.
Good to have you back. May thy disciples banish the darkest of nights. Oh my god, we're now speaking like him.
I am no esteemed philosopher of Eld. Nevertheless, 'tis my hope that what little knowledge I shared shall serve them well, and perchance help save us all.
That would be nice.
Will thou attend us at the Forum and lend thine own wisdom?
Yeah. Pudding.
If that's all quite settled, can we start moving before Urianger catches his death? Even I'm freezing out here.
Oh, I dare say you'll warm up quickly once you're aboard the airship. Sat shoulder to shoulder with our fur-covered friends.
Unbelievable. Quest accepted. Oh, wonderful. We just teleport here. That's nice. Okay. I dare say Master Fashinal was as nonplussed as we to learn the identity of Hydaelyn's lunar custodians, As you will soon discover, they have much and more to offer the Forum. Might I suggest we return to the Annex forthwith? We may yet have time to discuss thy recent adventures ere we are summoned to the Rostra. Yeah? Okay. Let me just quickly go over there. Because I saw a sightseeing log spot. And might as well have a look. I hope it's just lookout, as it most often is. It is. Wonderful. Okay. Now we can make our way to the Annex. I think we might as well walk, seeing as it is, you know, not that far. Oops. Oh, let's go. Cutscene is already starting. I love it. Not that I'm complaining, Orange, but I wasn't expecting to see you quite so soon. Nor I thee, in extolling the virtues of Epheris, I did inadvertently awaken in the Loperites a desire to avert our beloved star demise. Kral tells us you have obtained new knowledge that may aid us in our ongoing efforts. I have news to share regarding our study of the Epheris, but your findings are certain to be of greater interest, so I would rather hear them first. To what revelations did Heideland's Elpis flower lead? That chapter alone could fill, you know, an entire game. Then this dynamis is what drives the final days. If it and Akasha are one and the same, this all but proves Nidana's theory, where an entity, through sheer force of emotion, to channel this vast dormant reservoir into a raging river, its power might surpass even that of ether. But if our star is so replete with ether, said entity would need to be outside its influence, to effectively manipulate the dynamis of the great expanse. Mateon, or rather, the sorrow and suffering of fallen civilizations that she has been hoarding for millennia. Untold anguish and fear and hatred drawn from every corner of the universe, all for a single purpose, the destruction of Epheris. Then our foe is no longer some unknowable calamity. We have but one aim, to defeat Mateon. You make it sound so simple, but you're not wrong. Vanquish Mateon and we deliver the world from the final days, but to even attempt it, there are two conditions. First, we must determine her location. Before Mateon escaped, an enchantment was placed upon her by Vana, the woman who would become Heidelin. The implications of temporal magics are not entirely understood, and so we cannot assume that our Highlander Venar you met in Alpus are one and the same. Nevertheless, due to her intrinsic qualities as an all-powerful being, I wager that Hyland possesses the knowledge we seek. Whether she would share that knowledge with us, however, remains to be seen. After all, she intends for us to flee Aetheris, not to stay. Do you suppose she has abandoned her pursuit of Mateon? The Venar I know would never give up. Never surrender. That's my impression too, otherwise she wouldn't have used me as a conduit for her will, or provided clues such as the Alpus flower. I believe she has been waiting for mankind's answer to Hermes' question. So, what's the second condition? We must find a means to reach Mateon. Well, we have an entire moon. Naturally, our chosen method will depend entirely upon wheresoever she has made her nest. Then, communing with Hyland must be by necessity come first. Did you and Master Matoya have any luck with your investigation into the Ethereal Sea? Sadly, no. Though we enlisted the help of Arnwald and other Echo-blessed allies, we couldn't detect so much as a whisper from Hydaelyn, even from within the Antitower. Master Matoya is of the opinion that in the years since abandoning it, the From has found some other method of receiving instructions from Hydaelyn. If so, it would most likely be some form of apparatus for observing the Ethereal Sea, built closer to home. How about we, Sorry to interrupt, we just received word from the Forum. Your presence is required in the Rostra, where they intend to discuss the Great Exodus. And Father was able to persuade them. They're finally taking us seriously. Let's see what they have to say. Wouldn't say that he convinced them. They only are making an announcement. To think the Crystal Tower of the First is capable of such feats as sending one's soul into the distant past. The events you witnessed and helped shape may yet hold the key to forestalling the final days. I'm reminded of dear friends in a future I unmade, whose selfish efforts saw the 8th Umbra calamity averted. In this timeline, at least. Too much has been sacrificed for us to abandon Etheris now. After sending Graha and Asinian back to Garlemald, I stayed in Locus Amonis for a time. Being an imperial province, it was already in turmoil before the onset of the final days. You wouldn't believe the difficulties we had overseeing the evacuation of the villages we visited. I have faith the detachment we left behind will continue our work and shepherd the people to safety. To what safety can be found in a world coming to an end? Master Matoya has suspected for some time that the Forum has been constructing a new facility for the purpose of surveying the Ethereal Sea. Of course, as the custodian of the Antitower, which would presumably be rendered obsolete as a result, she has a few things to say about that. Nothing that should be repeated in polite company, you understand. After he had left for Garlemald, I went to Labyrinthos and tried to reach Hydaelyn using the Alpus flowers. Alas, my attempts were in vain. I can only assume that she spent a vast amount of her power in the confrontation with Fandaniel, and is presently unable to communicate. Indeed, as her presence left my body, I could feel how faint it had grown. I hope you don't mind me staying behind while you attend your big meeting. The Rostri reminds me a bit too much of the supremely scary tribunal in Ishgard. You'll forgive me if I keep my distance. Yeah, that's fine. Father has granted us the opportunity we've been waiting for. Though we know not what information, if any, they intend to reveal, there is only one way to find out. To the Rostra. Well, that was a much quicker response than I was expecting. Nice to know our efforts on the Magna Glacies didn't go unnoticed. At first, I wasn't sure what to make of Hermes and his motives, but it's like we discussed at the Great Work. When faced with the harsh realities of life, some seek the release of death, others grow defiant. They fight. Either way, it's our right to choose. Yeah. 'Twas Hydaelyn's commandment that the event Zodiac should perish. The Lopoids were to deliver the people of affairs from harm. Sorry. Though that be the limit of their duties, they possess knowledge unparalleled of the great expanse and the means of its traversal. Should they be persuaded to assist in our efforts to reach Metaion, we would do well to heed their counsel. Yeah, like, come on. They literally have a gigantic spaceship that they made in the last, 12,000 years. If anyone has any idea how to get to a distant place in the universe, I think the Lopoids would be the ones. Oh. Must go higher. Why is this game so gorgeous? Alright. Let's go. The forum is in session, and as such, the rostra is closed to visitors. Yeah, but I'm not a visitor. A sign of the 7th dawn. Very well, you may wait in the corridor. Of course, entry will only be permitted on the occasion you leave your armaments at the door. Lest you forget, this sacred institution holds rational discourse in the highest. The implements of war are expressly forbidden. Just to spite them. Just because. Okay, I have to wait on the other side, I guess. I like how I'm supposed to wait, like, here. So I have to cross the entire forum? Oh well. Eh. Whatever.
There is a matter I wish to raise with you before we enter.
Oh. I'm all ears.
We are here to listen and to learn. But if the forum's plans are more or less what I expect, then I should like to make a proposal that will serve our ends.
I'm listening.
By your leave, of course.
No, I'm staying.
I don't see why not.
Your words and wits have gotten us this far. Agreed. I will present our queries so that you may consider the most advantageous way to advance your proposal without distraction.
Thank you, everyone.
If I may have your attention, the ad hoc session will now commence. The purpose of today's assembly is to brief the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, at their request, on the Great Exodus. You may enter.
Oh, they disabled my weapons. Well played, Square Enix. Well played.
On behalf of the Forum, I commend your heroic actions on the Magna Glaciers. We shall not soon forget your service to us and the people of Radzat-Han. The Satrap, whom we have informed of the refugees' new arrangements, sings your praises as well. As an expression of our gratitude, we will endeavor to answer your questions as fully and openly as we are able.
Okay, good start.
Then let us begin. First, it is the Forum's objective to ferry the life and knowledge of this star to the moon. Am I correct?
You are. It is for this purpose that Sharlayan has labored these many long years.
Okay.
We have collected biological samples and scientific records from across the star. When the time comes, they will be moved from their places in Labyrinthos and Numenon and conveyed to safety. Once that critical task has been accomplished, we will begin transporting the Sharlayan citizenry, which has been categorized into groups. The earliest arrivals are to ensure hospitable environs for those who come after. Following our people, we will send those of other nations in turn, beginning with our allies. Radzat-Han was foremost among these, but since the final days have already come to Thavnair, we saw fit to include the refugees with earlier groupings.
Okay.
An ambitious plan. You have accounted for the safety of all nations and tribes, then?
As many as we can.
And how, pray tell, do you decide who to leave behind?
To journey beyond the sky is an unprecedented and immeasurably difficult endeavor. Introducing sources of inevitable conflict would condemn all to certain death.
Questions as to the validity of that approach aside, are your plans proceeding apace? We're under the impression that your primary means of celestial transportation is incomplete.
If only in that it does not meet our optimal parameters, that is correct.
What means optimal parameters?
This arc, as some have taken to calling it, is fully operational and could be launched even today.
But...
However, the final days have progressed more quickly than we anticipated. At present, the ship is incapable of attaining speeds sufficient to meet our evacuation targets. Should we put the vessel into service, as it is now, we will be unable to travel to the moon and back quickly enough to complete the necessary number of trips. Precious lives and knowledge will be lost.
Seven hells. Is there anything to be done?
Well, ask the Loporits for help.
The ether burner, the primary means of propulsion once the craft is in the space between stars, is undergoing testing to determine whether it can be made more efficient. Though cargo is being loaded for the initial phase of the Exodus, we are prepared to continue our experimentation up to the day before launch, should it prove necessary.
What if the Scions were to solve your problem?
Huh? Nani?
We shall help devise a means to improve the ether burner's efficiency, on 2 conditions.
Ooh.
If we succeed, you must allow us to meet with Hydaelyn.
He's not even asking.
Simple enough to deduce. You have a Concord, and so you would never have abandoned the anti-tower had you no other means of communication. One far more convenient, I suspect.
The second condition, also to be met upon our success, is that we be permitted to propose another use for your ark.
Oh.
We would be at liberty to refuse this proposal.
Of course. If we cannot prove its merit to the 99 here, who are we to stake on it the lives of all peoples of this star?
Delightful as always, Master Alfino.
Master Alfino. I like it.
Oh, we couldn't have asked for a finer plan. Allow us to solve this complex engineering problem of which we were entirely unaware until moments ago. What could possibly go wrong? The satire writes itself.
I mean...
Yet, what field has not benefited from a change in perspective? When we are at wit's end, what we need is not the same dry theories recited ad nauseam, but fresh inspiration.
True.
I, for one, have faith in my erstwhile students to provide it, and I find their terms to be perfectly acceptable.
Well.
Order! Order! We have no time to waste on debate. I call a vote. All in favor of agreeing to the Scion's terms?
You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't count so quickly. But it looks good. That's most, if not all of them.
"71 in favor, 28 against. The ayes have it."
The eyes. Eyes in terms of, like, yes.
Portioneau, as the architect of this project, you are the best candidate to show them its current state. And bear in mind that regardless of your personal misgivings, this is the will of the Forum.
We don't care about your personal squabbles. Do as the Forum says.
Very well.
I call this session to a close. Return to your tasks with urgency. The final days wait for none.
Well, technically they're waiting for me, because if I'm not progressing in the game, you know, they will never come. But that's not what I'm going to do. Rest assured, I have every intention of honoring the Forum's decision. Good boy. My affinity for espionage may have earned me the title of Archon, but I was completely unaware of the Forum's plans. There may have been clues here and there had I been of a mind to look for them, but contemplating that possibility only serves to further wound my pride. Not that anyone could have realistically surmised that their brilliant stratagem was to build a giant ship, fly to the moon, a still larger vessel in truth, and use that to travel to another star. Even now, the whole idea seems positively absurd when spoken aloud. Yes. Of late, I have seen no signs of the Loporrits. This being the first opportunity to experience the wonders of Sharlayan, the potential for misadventure is nigh infinite. Oh no. Perhaps if Midgard Summer was still alive, in a traditional sense, that is, he could have offered to help the vessel attain the necessary speeds. Then again, there's no guarantee his contribution would make enough of a difference to matter. The further we pursue the mysteries of the universe, the more I struggle to comprehend the fortuitous nature of time itself. We measure and quantify it based on observations of celestial bodies, such as the sun and moon, but from your account it is unclear whether the ancients viewed time in a similar manner. I mention this because, while Verna knew the final days would reoccur at a defined point in the future, she presumably had no way of knowing exactly when. Even so, the contemplation of the From's preparation to escape to the moon, aligning so closely with the advent of the fallen days, is surely no coincidence. I'm a little vexed that we've yet to learn of the Forum's replacement for the anti-tower, though I expect that in time they'll share that too with us, and with Master Matoya, if they've if they've any sense. Phew, I'll admit, bringing up the issue of the Forum's incomplete arc was more than a little daunting. They were, to their credit, quite open about the current state of affairs. What was even more surprising, though, was when they took Alfino up on his offer. While I very much take issue with the Forum's approach to selecting whom they save and when, they're not wrong for wanting to minimize potential conflicts. Fortunately, if this plan of ours actually works, the Great Exodus itself will become entirely unnecessary. Sorry about not letting the rest of you in on my plan. I was, admittedly, thinking on my feet for the most part. But since we require both a means of communing with Hydaelyn and reaching Metaion, in the spur of the moment I saw involving ourselves with the completion of the arc as a way to work towards both objectives simultaneously. However, we must first keep our end of the bargain by solving the problem of the ether burner. I'd like to think it is not a challenge beyond our combined expertise, or at least the expertise of our extended circle of associates. It might behoove us to learn how an ether burner actually works before we attempt to improve it, though. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. As Father seems so eager to help, maybe we can have him educate us about the ether burner. Going underground. As instructed, I shall take you to see the ether burner. Meet me outside of Archaon. I trust you can make your own way there. So the arc is being built in Labyrinthos. Hardly surprising. Where else could they conceal such a massive undertaking? Yeah.